In a world obsessed with K-dramas, we've been glued to another drama over the last 30 days, and that is the tea drama. Donald Trump and his tariffs wreaked havoc on asset classes across the board in the early days of April, and as the dust settles, the ground reality is far from what Donald Trump claims or wants his followers to believe. Let's first take a look at what transpired during that 1 week from the 2nd to the 9th of April. Now, in a gala event which he termed as Liberation Day, Donald Trump announced a tariff on all countries, a 10% baseline for all of them, and different levies on top of that for different countries, including those regions that did not even have human population. Now, amidst this chaos, China remained defiant. On the 4th of April, it imposed a 34% levy on all US imports, which went on to increase to 125% over the next few days. Now, while global markets were smashed, the real drama was yet to unfold. Now, on the 7th of April, a tweet said that Donald Trump may consider a 90-day pause to his tariffs. The news sparked a 10% intraday recovery on the Nasdaq, but while the White House called this news fake. Just 2 days later, Donald Trump proclaimed on Truth Social that this is a great time to buy. Hours later, he announced a 90-day pause. The result, the US markets had their best intraday move since 2008, the third best on record. Now, Donald Trump claims that tariffs are good for the economy. Companies will begin to invest in the US. Billions and trillions will be poured into the US as revenue, and so on. But has that actually happened? Well, not really, at least not in the first 30 days. The first quarter GDP came in at a negative 0.3%, the first contraction since 2022. Trump put the blame on that to the Biden administration overhang. That's not it. Inflation is still above the Fed's 2% target. The jobless claims that came in yesterday were at the highest level in 3 months. Trade deficit is at a record high. The front loading of imports caused the GDP contraction, and consumers are feeling the pinch. The consumer confidence is at a 5-year low. For an economy that is growing at an average of 3% over the last 2 years, out of nowhere, recession has gained prominence. And how? Brokerages project the odds of a recession between 40 to 65% to hit the US this year. Prominent Wall Street economist David Rosenberg goes one step ahead at 85%, while veteran investor Ray Dalio outclassed them all by saying that he expects something worse than a recession. Now, this tariff-related uncertainty has hit companies across the board. Many have suspended guidance for the year, some even for 2026. And when the world's biggest retailer suspends its guidance, you know that there is a reason to worry. But not only Walmart, there are other most automakers, airlines, medical equipment makers that are part of this list, because they just don't know what will happen next. Of course, some have been resilient too. Coca-Cola is one of them. Big tech continues to spend. Rolls-Royce says tariffs are manageable. We'll see these names in this list as well. But what about asset classes? That should be divided into 2 buckets, the initial phase and the post-pause phase. The 3 US benchmark indices fell to 52-week lows between the 2nd and the 9th of April, and all of them have seen double-digit returns since then. The US dollar struggles, so does oil. Gold made new highs, but Bitcoin has outperformed them all, nearing $100,000 yet again. But you'll have to give one thing to Donald Trump. His tariff threats have had some of the biggest companies of the world suddenly loosen their purse strings to pour billions into the US as investment. Apple is planning a $500 billion investment in 4 years. TSMC plans for $100 billion. Lilly, Nvidia, Hyundai, Roche, all of them want to expand their presence in the US just to avoid any further tariff pressure. So where do things stand today? After a month full of kabhi haan, kabhi na, China's Commerce Ministry finally said that it is evaluating overtures from the US for possible trade talks. That has calmed some more frayed nerves on Wall Street that the 2 sulking countries will finally get onto the negotiating table. When does that happen? Nobody knows. When do deals with other countries happen? Nobody knows that either. Now, although the Trump administration has hinted at positive steps being taken towards deal with India, Japan and South Korea, the contours of the deal remain unclear. The status of talks with other countries also remain unclear. And lastly, the big question, what happens if the deals are not signed within these 90 days? Another pause? Another extension? Well, your guess is as good as mine. It's been 30 days to this tea drama, and with this back and forth, this confusion, this lack of clarity, everybody around the world finds themselves in a situation where you're reminded of this immortal line by the late Hasrat Jaipuri, "Yahan kal kya ho, kisne jana?"